Hey, this is Carlos Cavallo. Welcome back to more Secrets to Unlock His Heart. And today we're going to talk about something very cool, how to talk to a guy. You'd think it'd be an obvious subject, right? I mean, guys are simple, right? We like to talk about sports, girls, action movies, and, occasionally cars. But you'd think it'd be pretty simple to strike up a conversation with a guy, wouldn't you? But the truth is often far from that. First of all, you probably feel silly talking about action movies or cars. Yeah, I realize there are some girls and there are some women that get into those topics, but it's not that frequent. And you probably don't want to talk about girls either. And that leaves sports, of which you may or may not be a fan. But right about here, you're starting to feel that scarcity of topics that bridge the gap of male and female communications. Well, I'm here to tell you that it doesn't have to be that hard. You simply need to use a few simple strategies to get them to notice you, pay attention to you, and, want more of you, right? Don't worry, I'm not going to bore you here with that been there, done that advice that you can usually get from any of those lame how-to sites out there. I'm going to give you some real in-depth understanding here. First off, let's talk about the kind of things you don't want to talk to guys about. How to not talk to a guy. First of all, don't criticize him. Not once. Not even in your sweetest, most charming voice. Not even if someone else just spoke the honest truth and you just want to help him feel better about whatever was said. Seriously, this is a huge mistake that many women make that just does not fly with guys. And the less time you've known him, the less likely you're ever going to be able to recover from that kind of mistake. In fact, when a woman criticizes a guy at any time, it's never going to be well received. Men are extremely sensitive to the criticisms of women. And it's the same the other side, too. And it's enough to make him pull away from you and grow distant. In fact, if you've ever wondered why men pull away, this is one of the biggest reasons, and it's not immediately obvious to most women. So just keep it in the back of your head that we can take feedback and criticism from another guy, but rarely from the woman in his life. It's just too close and too painful. If you have something you'd like to fix or tweak about him, keep it in the back of your head, for now. There's going to be plenty of these things for you to work on with him in the future. Trust me on that. For now, it's better to wait until you have a list you can prioritize. The fact that he sneezes a bit too loud for you right now might be pretty insignificant later on when you have other things to compare it to, right? Another thing to not talk about with a guy. Don't talk about any man that you think is attractive or hot. Yes, I know it seems pretty obvious, but I've seen this one done quite a few times, believe it or not, even on first dates. What often happens is the woman, she finds some chemistry with her date, right? Things actually get going pretty good. And she gets comfortable and she starts talking on a topic that is slightly sexual in nature. And it makes him talk about some edgy topics. And before you know it, oops, you got a little too comfortable and you let slip how hot you think Ryan Gosling is or some other guy. Now, we both know you're just feeling more open and trusting, but that topic is not going to win him over any more than him telling you how hot he thinks some actress or model is. At worst, it's just going to make him feel bad and shut him down. What you shouldn't talk about with a guy, here's another one, is anything that breaks the spell. That's right, anything that breaks the spell. The last thing I want to tell you about is something that may seem kind of old-fashioned by today's standards, but it just so happens to be one of the most powerful tools in your arsenal as a woman. What is this forgotten secret of attraction? Well, it is mystery. Mystery, yes. If there's anything that a guy needs, it's mystery. And if there's something a guy doesn't want to know, well, it's anything that breaks the spell of his enchantment with you as a woman. One of those areas of mystery is what you're doing in the bathroom. You know, whether that's getting ready for a date, pooping, dealing with the flow, or, just catching up on YouTube videos on your iPad, don't feel compelled to explain yourself or have to give any details about what's going on behind the scenes of your personal blockbuster. Just keep the details about anything that breaks that magic to yourself. Yeah, this even includes the freak appearance of a zit or pimple that you might, feel you need to explain to him. You don't need to. It's okay. He won't care about why or how. And if you bring it up, he'll just wonder, why are you so insecure? Okay, so now let's dig into some of the more important ways for how to talk to guys. First of all, it goes without saying, if you met this guy over a common interest activity of some kind, that's always a great home base to come back to for conversation. If you met him at a concert or some live music somewhere, then music is your best safety net if things get dry in the conversation. Second of all, remember that there's a sweet spot when you're talking to guys. You don't need to blab nonstop constantly, but you should be helping basically to keep the conversation and the talk flowing. Occasional flurries of small talk are okay. You're a bit nervous after all, right? And so is he. On the other hand, if you let things get too silent, yeah, it can get awkward. But you shouldn't be afraid of a little pause in the conversation every so often. It'll keep him working to gain your interest. Okay, now, here's how to talk to a guy. 3 steps for how to talk to men. Number 1 is get him to talk about the greatest thing in the world. You know what the greatest thing is, right? It's him. It's not like he's a guy that's narcissistic and self-centered. Most guys you meet really aren't, by the way. One of the things they don't tell you is a lot of those dating advisors and self-help gurus would want you to believe that every little thing that you find bothersome about a man is A, worth paying attention to, and B, completely his problem. The reality is that he's going to fall back on talking about the one thing he understands best. And that's, of course, his own viewpoint. So he might sound like he's just talking about himself, but he's really just hoping you'll be able to listen to him in a way that his other dude friends simply can't. And men often fall back on talking about himself if he runs out of questions to ask you. Sometimes it's just a space-filling strategy that gives him the time to relax and then ease back into asking more questions. But the point is that most men do this automatically in conversations with other guys. It doesn't mean he's a self-centered idiot. Men are just used to talking about his experience of the world, and it's usually fact-based, meaning that he's just used to communicating in hard details, not soft emotions. And this is why sports stuff is so easy for most guys to talk about. It's just memorized numbers. Now, the next tip for how to talk to guys is, number 2, put away the strong, independent woman card for just a little while, okay? Yes, I know that's going to make a lot of women flinch, especially if your mom was one of the women who grew up in the surge of feminist politics of the 1970s and onward. But here's the deal. A guy wants a woman who has a reason to want him. Think about that one for a second. Think about it from your perspective for a second. Do you want a guy that doesn't need you in some way? Whether that's nurturing or for sex or for any of those other wonderful, wonderful parts of being in a relationship. Why would you be with a guy if there wasn't something there he could provide for you? And yet, time and time again, a guy will go out on a date only to discover that she can get the door herself, thank you very much, or she can pull out her own chair from the table, thanks anyways, or, oh no, I don't need you to walk me back to my car, or that's fine, I can do this, or that, or anything, all by myself. In countless little ways, women undermine a man's attraction simply by being too quick to cut him out of the equation of you plus him. Yeah, we get it. You're not dumb. You're not incapable. You're not a stereotype from the 1930s. You're a woman, and yes, you can handle yourself. That's great. Hey, you may have even taken a little kickboxing, and you can kick a little ass. But if there's one thing I can tell you for sure, it's that men don't want women who don't have some need for them in their life. We men have to be handy. We have to be of use to you. We have to provide, or we just don't feel like men. And guess what? We won't stay with a woman who doesn't help us feel more like a man than we would without her. Think about that. And think about this. What do you really want a man to do for you? Then let him do that for you. Number 3, about how to talk to a man. Use a thought-provoking question to create instant chemistry. When all is said and done, a man will feel more connected and attracted to you if he feels like he's heard and understood. Remember that little equation, heard and understood. At the risk of sounding like a country western lyric, let me repeat that one for you. When the date is over, a man will feel far more connected and attracted to you if he feels like you heard him and understood him. Because one of the most common complaints men that have these days is that when they talk to a woman, it doesn't feel like she's really listening to him. It feels more like she's waiting for her turn to talk. Ouch. One guy I coached, Trevor, he told me that at least half the dates he's been on for the last several months had felt like the girl he was with wasn't really listening to him. She was just kind of blankly firing off questions in an attempt to engage him. He said, it didn't feel like she was listening as much as she was checking off boxes on some little list in her brain, he said. Well, that's obviously not a feeling you want to leave with a guy. So take it from me that the most important thing you can talk about with a guy isn't really talking at all. It's giving him an ear. The kind of sincere, I get you kind of listening that makes a man realize you're different. This is a really big deal. And this is the single most powerful thing to get a guy to feel an uncontrollable pull towards you and an attraction he can't resist. It's like a magnet that's buried deep inside him that has found its target. His desire will draw him to you, and he'll feel compelled to give you his undivided attention. He'll notice you deep inside, and he will resonate with a passion that stirs him right to his soul. Would you like to know how to talk to a guy and make him attracted to you like that? So many women wonder what to say to a guy in a conversation, but there's a lot more than just the words you say to him. There's so much more that matters when you want him to desire you. And you can find out more about that by going over to datingadviceguru.com/read his signals. That's datingadviceguru.com/read his signals, where I'll talk to you a little bit more about this topic of understanding what men are really thinking and what they really want from you, whether it's in conversation, on that first date, and every time you get together with them from then on. I'll be talking again soon. This is Carlos Cavallo from datingadviceguru.com.